Is Brian Cage on his way to All Elite Wrestling? If Melissa Santos has anything to say about it, he has not signed with anybody. Kenny Omega calls the fans ignorant as they criticize AEW's women's division. And could we be looking at a Ring of Honor and All Elite Wrestling partnership now that Marty Scurll is the creative mind behind ROH? All this, plus so much more, right here on Off the Script Elites.
Delete! This is mine.
There's never a dull moment in the world of professional wrestling, man. It's always so hectic and always so crazy and always so vocal and always so negative. I know. I'm the king of negative when I need to be. I could be positive, believe it or not. But if you entered this weekend on Friday, you were excited about a couple of things happening in the world of pro wrestling. We had NXT TakeOver Blackpool. That was a great show on Sunday afternoon. Impact Wrestling had Hard to Kill Sunday night. So Sunday was filled with just a really, really, really good block of pro wrestling. It's what happened on Saturday that kind of buried all of the good that happened over the weekend. Obviously, you guys know what I'm talking about. I made a video on it. You can go check it out on the channel. It's there in all its 30-minute glory. Tessa Blanchard and the racism and the bullying accusations brought upon her by several of her peers. That pretty much was the big story, and everything else underneath that was buried. And if you concentrated solely on that, there are a couple of stories that you might have missed. Some big ones. Brian Cage signs with All Elite Wrestling. Yes, that Brian Cage. Yes, the Machine. Brian Cage, formerly of Impact Wrestling, former Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion. Now, Melissa Santos is saying something else. Melissa Santos, his wife, is saying something else. Of course she is. We'll go over that story as I have the latest up-to-date information on the Machine. Will he be All Elite? Another story that you might have missed, buried underneath the Tessa Blanchard situation. It's Marty Scurll. Marty Scurll, everybody assumed, everybody was just booking his future for him, pretty much. Ended up signing with Ring of Honor. Everybody assumed that he was going to be All Elite. He signed a new long-term contract with Ring of Honor that not only is paying him WWE main roster-like money, but he is now the head booker. He is in charge of creative over in Ring of Honor. Pretty big deal. Pretty big deal. I got the latest on that as well for all you fans of Marty Scurll and Ring of Honor out there. Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega says that everybody being negative against the AEW women's division is being ignorant. I don't know if I would say we're being ignorant. I just think that we're expecting AEW to give us what they promised. So we'll talk about that as well. And then obviously I got a preview for Dynamite tonight, where I wish I was on the beach with a cold beverage, but I'll be here in the cold on the East Coast in New York, and I'll be watching at home. AEW Dynamite, Bash at the Beach. Their Bash at the Beach event for Dynamite. I got the preview, and we'll go over that as well right here on the podcast. Thank you guys so very much for joining me. I'm JD. If you are new around here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on that bell for all notifications. If you guys enjoy what you like or see here, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up as well. Follow me on social media at JD from NY206. That's on Twitter and Instagram. Let's get into the news, man. I got a lot of it. I don't want to waste any more of your time. I might as well go over the preview for the Bash at the Beach show tonight. By the way, the reason I didn't do this show usually happens on Tuesday. The reason I didn't upload this on Tuesday was because I got the Tessa Blanchard video out on Monday afternoon. That was around 6 p.m. Then I did Monday Night Raw, and we covered Monday Night Raw from Lexington, Kentucky, where Buddy Murphy joined Seth Rollins and AOP at the end of Monday Night Raw. I didn't want to get another video out on Tuesday. I didn't want to bombard the sub boxes with 3 videos in 2 days. So I waited, and that's why you're getting the Off the Script Elite podcast on Wednesday morning, right before Dynamite. Speaking of Dynamite, Bash at the Beach is happening from Miami, Florida. I love Miami, man. I got to go back to Miami. It's happening tonight at I believe it's the Watsco Center in Miami, Florida. This is what we got going on tonight. Sammy Guevara will step up. He'll step up to the plate big time. He'll fail. He'll strike out for sure. And he'll go up against Jon Moxley on Dynamite. That obviously is stemming from last week's situation where Moxley not only took the Ford GT, by the way, that was Shad Khan's Ford GT. He could probably afford fucking 500 of those things, but that was Tony Khan's father's Ford GT, just to throw a little fucking fun fact out there for you guys. Sammy Guevara obviously is going to step up to the plate to go to bat for the Inner Circle and what Jon Moxley did to them. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, like I said, he'll strike out while Moxley is inching closer to the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. We got a fatal 4-way. Number 1 contenders tag team match. Winners will get a shot at SCU. Date to be determined. I'm not sure if it's going to happen on Dynamite or they'll save it for AEW Revolution, but we got the Young Bucks going up against Omega and Page versus Santana and Ortiz, Proud and Powerful, and the Best Friends. That should be killer. That should be really awesome. And just looking at the field of teams here, I am assuming, and again, after Marty Scurll, we can't assume anything, I am going to predict that Kenny Omega and Adam Hangman Page win this thing. And they will go on to eventually have that nasty split, and then they'll go on to feud at AEW Revolution. That's my prediction. So we'll see what happens there. Or the Young Bucks could win it, and they could get another shot at SCU, and they could crown themselves the AEW Tag Team Champions. So we'll see what happens there. I'm excited for that. That should be a barn burner. Santana and Ortiz are in the background. They really haven't done much of anything as of late in the last couple of weeks. The Best Friends also haven't done much of anything. We've seen them mingle around some 6-man tags. We've seen Trent, as of late, go up against Jon Moxley. Very impressive outing there with Jon Moxley, but he was on the losing side of things. But that's going to be a great match. Very much looking forward to that tonight on Dynamite. 6-man tag team action, we got MJF. Anytime MJF is on the show, you know it's going to be TV gold. He'll be teaming with The Butcher and The Blade. They'll be going up against QT Marshall, Dustin Rhodes, and Diamond Dallas Page. I don't know when DDP was in the ring last. It was probably an Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, if I'm not mistaken. That's the last time I remember seeing him in a wrestling capacity in a pro wrestling ring. But The Butcher and The Blade, man, I don't know if they're signed with AEW. They might be just there per appearance. But they came in, their debut was botched, and they looked impressive in their first match. And then they lose to Darby Allen and Cody. And then they get diamond cuttered. Both of them, The Butcher and The Blade, get diamond cuttered by DDP. So I don't know how much value The Butcher and The Blade actually have, but we'll see what happens with MJF in this 6-man tag. It should be interesting. Darby Allen, speaking of which, Darby Allen will go one-on-one against Pac. That should be fun. Can't wait to see what those two guys do. Both of them need a win, but I think Pac is going to take that one. Cody will respond to MJF. That should be interesting. Now, Arn Anderson came out last week and said, whoa. Well, we'll discuss this when we have some time to discuss it between ourselves. Cody's going to give you the answer next week. That's what he said on last week's Dynamite. And then we got some ladies action. We got Melanie Cruz, who they're calling Mel, and Awesome Kong with Brandy Rhodes, the Nightmare Collective, a collective of garbage is what it is, against Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander. So that is AEW Dynamite on Wednesday night. Should be fun. Can't wait to see what happens. Speaking of Chris Statlander, you like that transition, right? I got a Chris Statlander story. You didn't think that was going to come, but I got one. Chris Statlander, she actually talks turning down WWE's contract offer to her. They really wanted Chris Statlander, and there were some conflicting reports that she actually had signed with the company. AEW actually ended up getting Statlander, but it wasn't an easy decision. She was speaking to Alicia Atout. Chris Statlander discussed the difficult decision to turn WWE down. Her dream was coming true either way because she had contracts on the table from two of the biggest companies in the pro wrestling world, number one and number two in the industry, and she seems very happy with her choice in AEW. This is what she says, and I quote, "There's a lot of thought going through my mind because the whole thing with WWE was that they were interested in me also. There's a lot of stress with me because I didn't know what was coming or what I was going to do. I didn't know what was the right choice. You would think it's a dream come true for anybody to be offered a contract, but for me, getting signed was never a legit goal of mine in wrestling." Find that to be kind of odd, but she is the alien, right? That last line didn't really make any sense to me. It was not me getting signed. It was never a legit goal of mine in pro wrestling. Then what the fuck are you doing here? Seriously. Obviously, you're good enough to get signed. If it wasn't a goal, what was your goal? That's what I would like to know. She finishes off with this, and I quote, "I am thoroughly enjoying all of my time that I've been with AEW and all the opportunities they have given me so far, and I have no regrets about it." She made the right decision. I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. She made the right decision here. If she went to WWE, they probably would have changed her gimmick. They probably would have changed her name. They probably would have kept her in the PC for another year or two. And who knows when she would have seen TV time. She would have been just like everybody else. She would have been in such a crowded women's division that it definitely would have been a lot harder for her to find any room to breathe. So I think she made the right decision. She would have been a very, very small guppy in a sea full of sharks over in WWE. Meanwhile, in AEW, she was this close to becoming AEW Women's Champion. It should have happened. I don't know why the belt is still on Riho, but hopefully Chris Statlander is the champion sooner rather than later. I love what she brings to the table. I love what she's done so far. Obviously, she still has a lot to learn, and obviously there's still a lot of growth still yet to come, but whatever she's been doing is working, and I enjoy her in AEW, and she is in a position where they need her more than she needs them. That's always a better position to be in, and it's got to feel good when you know that you're in a division that they are going to build around you. So I'm glad she made that decision. If it was in WWE, that would have never been the case. It might have never been the case. There's just so much talent over there, especially with the females. They got the best female roster that I think I've ever seen WWE have. It's unbelievable. She made the right decision. Kenny Omega. Speaking of the women's division, Kenny Omega calls fans ignorant and defends the AEW women's division. Kenny Omega did a Q&A on his Twitter account last week to answer fan questions that range from various different topics. Many fans feel that Omega has taken a back seat, which is another story in itself. Everybody's saying that Kenny Omega is not the Kenny Omega of a year ago. I say, continue to be patient, please. Omega is going to be back in that position sooner rather than later. A, they need him. B, it's all storytelling. C, Moxley's going to beat Jericho in my prediction. D, at All Out, here's another prediction for you. Moxley will defend against Omega at All Out in Chicago, and Omega will be crowned the new king of AEW. There you go. I think that's a solid prediction. Omega has taken a backseat. Some of us looked at it being a good thing. Oh, they got to build up new stars. They got all this name value. They got all this name value that they're going to put their name value, and give it to everybody else on the roster and bolster the roster and build from within and build these up-and-comers and make names out of them. That was the mentality going into the first AEW show. Now we're looking at it 13, 14 weeks later, and I think everybody's second-guessing themselves now. Maybe it should have been the other way around. Maybe it should have been Kenny Omega. Maybe it should have been Matt and Nick Jackson at the top of the class. There's a reason why it's all elite wrestling. They are the elite. They should have been at the top of the class, and the company should have been built around them. I am guilty of saying that they need to put all of their star power and give it to everybody else. I'm guilty of it as well. Everybody said the same thing. But now we're all, as a community, second-guessing ourselves. They should be at the top of the mountain, and everybody should be chasing them. Because they are the stars, and AEW needs to be represented by the people who brought them to the dance. And I honestly think when you got someone like Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and then Cody at the top of the mountain, and you have somebody underneath them chasing them, and when that moment comes where that individual beats an Omega or beats a Cody or beats the Bucks and wins those championships, they're going to be better off for it. So, I don't know. Everybody does have a point, but it would have definitely been met with some backlash as well. Because if they immediately put themselves into that situation, you know how social media is. Everybody would have been saying, oh, look at these guys. They gave themselves the championships. They would have been calling them Triple H. Look at these executive vice presidents giving themselves the championships. What happened. Can't win with these people. But that's another story for a rainy day. Omega says fans are ignorant. Omega's taking a backseat. And again, another thing to add to that, this is what he might want. Who are we to question what Kenny Omega wants to do? So let him do what he wants to do. We're talking about the women's division, though. Omega has stated that it has taken him to take a step back in AEW. The reason for that is to allow other stars to get over. We went over that. It might not be working out the way that they anticipated. In a perfect world, I want every one of us to be talks of the town, says Omega. I don't mind taking a smaller role to achieve that. You'll still see me do what I do best on occasion, though, more and more as time goes by. I lived out mostly all of my dreams during my last run that I had in New Japan, and now I am a part of a bigger plan, and my current dream is to see a new generation thrive. That is very admirable, Mr. Omega. A lot more people should have that mentality. Another thing that's kind of has made people think about Kenny Omega in this lesser role. He's not as important. He's not as big. He's not as big of a star as he was in New Japan a year ago. All of us U.S. folk who went and watched Kenny Omega do what he did in Japan, we didn't see him all that often. We've seen him a couple of times throughout the year. We heard about him on social media. So when we actually sat down to watch what he really set out to do, and that was win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. It was watching something new. It was watching something fresh. And with Omega here on TV almost every single week, it's not every single week, but he's there the majority of the weeks. It's the WWE effect. It's the, AEW needing to produce content effect. Kenny Omega's too big of a guy to just keep off the TV for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. It's not going to happen. Being that they have weekly TV for 2 hours to fill on TNT every Wednesday night, we see more of Omega, and the more we see of Omega, the less important he becomes and the less important he feels. Just like anybody in WWE. Same thing happened with Ricochet. Same thing is happening with a lot of those WWE guys that you see on NXT. They get called up from NXT, or what I like to call demoted, from NXT because NXT is the main roster. The main roster is NXT, and the B and C shows are Raw and SmackDown. But when they get demoted from NXT, and we see them every single week, look at Ricochet. How valuable is Ricochet to WWE now? He's worthless. He is absolutely just not special anymore. He's lost all of his appeal. Now, obviously, that's due to WWE Creative, but that's also due to the fact that he's on Monday Night Raw. That is a show for 3 hours every single Monday. You lose your appeal, you know? Why did Becky Lynch go through that phase? She's been off TV for a little bit. She hasn't defended the Women's Championship in 3 months. We've seen her every single week. And remember when WWE had the wild card rule? How many times we see Reigns? How many times we see Corbin? How many times we see Becky and Charlotte? 2 shows. 2 shows twice a week. Overexposure. It makes you feel a little bit less important. Now, that's, again, another story for a different day, but some fans have been very critical of the matches and the stories that have been presented in the women's division. And Omega believes that this criticism is from ignorant fans. I don't think so, sir. I do not think so, sir. He says this, and I quote, "Lately, most criticisms I read are incredibly ignorant," Omega responded. "Depressing. The amount of fans that have absolutely no class. That being said, I do try to sift through those to get to the actual constructive criticism. We've had fantastic performances from our women that had our arenas shaking. Literally the loudest reactions on the shows at times. Where was the failure? What were you hoping to see?" End quote. Folks, I want to go over, as I have it right here in front of me, AEW's women's division. He says, where is the failure? Let's go over where this failure resides. Allie, she's a part of the women's division. She has a 0-0 record. 2020 overall record is 0-0. Her career is 3-2. Now, she's not an active performer. I don't know if they will be going back to her being an active performer. She's the bunny. The butcher, the blade, and the bunny. She's a demonic bunny. So she's not going to be a pro wrestler in AEW from what I see here. She's a valet. Awesome Kong of the Nightmare Collective, or the Collective of Garbage is what I call them. Awesome Kong. I would not like to see Awesome Kong in a ring ever. She can barely walk. So where is this shaking of the buildings there, sir? That is a failure in my eyes. That is a worthless addition to the roster. That's not going to bring name value. It's not going to bolster your division at all. Everybody loves Awesome Kong for what? For her to stand there? What is her reason for being there? It's not making anybody better. How could she make anybody better if she can't fucking move? I don't get it. You got B. Priestley. Now she's with Stardom and she's doing the Joshi thing over in Japan. Good for her. She's probably better off her. She's probably making more money than she would make in AEW, but she is a quality talent. WWE would be lucky to have her. AEW would be lucky to have her. I think she's awesome. But she has had a cup of coffee in AEW, but she's not really there. She's on their roster page, but she's not really there. Big Swole. We've seen Big Swole once on Dynamite. Not really all that impressive. Still green as grass. So I'm not really expecting much of Big Swole until she gets better. But that's a good addition. She's very over. Fans love her. Fans want to see her. I want to see her thrive, and I want to see her get better in the women's division. Brandy Rhodes is a part of the women's division. She is the chief brand officer of the Nightmare Collective. I don't give a shit. The Nightmare Collective should be just killed off TV completely. Should be just axed. The entire thing should just be thrown out. Britt Baker. Dr. Britt Baker. I don't know what they're doing with Britt Baker. She's not showing me that she is a number one acquisition for the women's division. Nothing. Haven't been impressed by anything Britt Baker has done. I'm still waiting. And I don't know how long you'd like me to wait, but she's not very good. And I'm just being honest with you. I want to see what everybody sees, but I just don't see it. Emi Sakura, I'm sorry. Complete garbage. Hikaru Shida, she's the best female in this entire division. That is somebody I want to see more of. That is a woman you build around. Chris Statlander, the galaxy's greatest alien. Still green, but she's very good. And she has worlds of potential. That's somebody that I want to see more. Those two names right there. You put Big Swole in there. Soon as Big Swole gets up to that level, she's not at the Sheeta level, she's not at the Statlander level, but if she does get up to that level, that's a solid 3 in that division right there. Leva Bates, does she even count? I don't think so. The librarian. Kenny Omega wants you to Nyla Rose. Not everybody's favorite, or maybe she is. I don't know. She's got potential. So that's another solid choice in the women's division. Penelope Ford hasn't had one singles match in Dynamite, period, or on Dynamite. I'd like to see more of Penelope Ford. From what I've seen of Penelope Ford, I want to see more of her. I would like her to get an opportunity to show us what she could do. That could be another solid addition to the women's division. Riho, give me a break. Seriously, she's like a strand of spaghetti. That's how small and thin she is. I mean, her offense, who is that believable against? Her offense is terrible. Her offense is like The Miz. It's awful. I don't know why this woman is still the AEW Women's Champion. She's got a career record of 10-2. 10-2. Little Riho. 80-pound Riho is the Women's Champion. Sadie Gibbs. I haven't seen Sadie Gibbs on Dynamite yet. Where is she? She signed. Where is she? Instead of putting them on AEW Dark, which I don't watch. I watch too much wrestling in the week. I don't need to go out there and watch an extra hour. Where's Sadie Gibbs? Shauna. From what I've seen of her in the couple of times she was on Dynamite, I was impressed. That's another solid addition. So you got some nice pieces here. The majority of this division is trash and just worthless. I don't know what value it brings to the division. And the way AEW's been booking the division, it's like it's the Brandy Road show. Now, I don't know why they're doing this Nightmare Collective thing and they're having it just overtake everything in the women's division. I really wonder if it's a case of, there are some people in AEW who might think it sucks, but they're afraid to speak up because it's Cody's wife. I've been wondering that aspect of it. Like, who could watch Dynamite and watch whatever happened on last week's show with Dr. Luther coming out from underneath the ring and that just piss-poor garbage women's championship match? I don't know where Kenny Omega says they were shaking buildings down. Statlander and Riho were in a match that ended up being complete garbage. Everybody was just like, what the fuck is going on here? That was the collective reaction from everybody in that arena and everybody watching at home. What the fuck? It's bad creative. Now, if you don't want me to speak up on when you do bad creative, I don't know what you want me to do. You want me to suck your dick? You want me to preach about AEW and how great everything is? And when they do everything, it's so great. You can't handle criticism. Criticism's going to come. You're now in the position of you're in charge. You're an executive vice president of All Elite Wrestling. If something on your show sucks, I'm going to tell you it sucks. If something on your show is great, I'm going to tell you what was great about it. This women's division is complete garbage. Garbage. The women's division is being taken over by the Nightmare Collective, and everything else in the division is being shoved down to be unimportant. The women should be given the same opportunity as the men to go out there and do what you promised. Be an alternative. I want an alternative. I want the women to go out there and show us that they can fucking wrestle. Same thing with NXT. You don't see the women's division in NXT doing the shit that you did on last week's Dynamite. If I want that type of shit, I'll watch SmackDown. I don't watch AEW for WWE-like storylines. I watch AEW for the wrestling. Where is it? The women's division has none of it. Not with the Nightmare Collective. Yuka Sakazaki. Give me a break. Give me a break. Go back to Japan. Give me some solid fucking performers that I know can deliver and that we can get behind 100%. AEW's got a solid build with Baker. If she gets better, I don't know if that's coming, but they got a solid build with Baker, Sheeta, Swole, Statlander, Nyla Rose, Sadie Gibbs, Shauna. Those are the women that you need to be pushing. And if they're not on TV, they need to start getting better. Practicing, whatever they're doing. This is why you got AEW Dark, right? They need to get better. Women like Britt Baker need to get better. Women like Big Swole need to get better. This is just some harsh criticisms. And I'm going to be critical of the things that I don't like or the things that I think suck on this show. Now, I don't know what they do. I don't know who they could go out there and get. But it's going to be one of those things that's going to be work in progress. I don't expect this to be the NXT Women's Division overnight. I just don't want to see the Nightmare Collective on fucking TV. So, whatever you got to do, get rid of it. It's complete garbage. I don't know where it's going. I don't really give a shit at this point. It's just not entertaining. It's not good television. Moving on here, man. Moving on from the Kenny Omega stuff. Tony Khan spoke on AEW Dynamite and the ratings success for the show last week. AEW President Tony Khan and CEO Tony Khan took to his official Twitter account where he thanked the fans for the ratings success for Dynamite's anniversary episode. Thanks to all who made the anniversary episode of Dynamite a ratings success. For all of us to keep succeeding, AEW will listen to our fans. I hear your feedback and won't ignore what you want to see from AEW every week. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. As noted, Dynamite on TNT was bringing in a 947,000 viewership number, down from 967,000 the previous week, but I mean, it's just down a little bit. They beat NXT on USA Network, which averaged 721,000 for Wednesday's show, and with the DVR, AEW is over 1.2 million. So that's pretty impressive. NXT is right underneath that 1 million mark. They come in at around 950,000 with the DVR. So it's great to see the ratings favor AEW, but they need to get better. I'm surprised that one segment with the Nightmare Collective didn't drive people away. And I thought NXT had the better show. But Tony Khan, a little less with this tweet and with these statements. Just let the show do what it's got to do. You go, book the show, and maybe after a great pay-per-view, then you come out and have a statement. But after a rating success on a Wednesday, I mean, limit those appearances, limit those statements. We don't need to hear that shit because that's just nothing but feed for the fucking trolls on social media. So we got Marty Scurll. Let's talk about Marty Scurll. Marty Scurll was assumed to be signing with AEW. He was even teased in the Being the Elite episodes the last couple of weeks. Everybody assumed that Marty Scurll was coming to AEW, but the news broke this weekend that Marty Scurll has re-signed with Ring of Honor. He is signed not only with Ring of Honor, but he is now signed to be head of creative for Ring of Honor, and he accepted a deal, a multi-year deal that will pay him WWE main roster money. Scurll put pen to paper on a new deal with Ring of Honor. The length of the deal is unknown, but PW Insider reports that Ring of Honor has been signing people to multi-year contracts, so it would make sense if Scurll was the same. Now, the report adds that as of this past weekend, Scurll is now taking on the lead booking for Ring of Honor 2. Former lead Hunter Johnston will stay with the company in a creative role, but Scurll is the new lead. This is coming from PW Insider and Mike Johnson. There is a Ring of Honor show in Baltimore on February 9th that is actually a free-to-attend show. This was actually Marty Scurll's idea, according to reports. The contract allows Scurll to continue working with NWA, where he is currently feuding with Nick Aldis over the NWA World Championship. So I'm assuming that match at their next pay-per-view will be for the world title. The main event will be Nick Aldis versus Marty Scurll. Despite not signing with AEW, it does not mean that Scurll doesn't want to have a relationship with AEW. Now, I mentioned this in a text to my buddy Jesse. I told him Scurll signed with Ring of Honor. I told him that he's now head booker for Ring of Honor. The tweet that he sent me back immediately was, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. Happy for Marty Scurll. We're all happy for Marty Scurll. If you can make that kind of money doing what you love, so be it. He said it was a brilliant idea. It was a brilliant maneuver by Marty Scurll. I didn't really think about it in that moment as being brilliant. I was thinking about it in that moment as, what a dumb fucking move. I was thinking about it out of my own desires. I wanted him to be in AEW. Now, I don't know if he would have brought anything to AEW regardless. I mean, he would have come in, he would have made a big splash, and then 3 weeks later, he would have been just like everybody else, normal, right? And he would have been there playing in the AEW sandbox with his friends. I thought about it in that moment as greediness. I'm like, fuck, I wanted him to be with AEW. I didn't think about the bigger picture in that moment. All I seen was the headline reach my Twitter account on my Twitter feed. And I'm like, what is AEW going to do now? They need talent. They need main event talents to bolster their roster. Marty Scurll would have been perfect. Then I started thinking about it. And I started thinking about what my buddy Jesse said. He said, this is brilliant. And the next line he tweeted me, or texted me rather, was that, look at it this way. The elite is really changing the world. And all I kept thinking about is that one line. The elite is really changing the world. Look at what Nick and Matt Jackson did. They took a unbelievable career in Ring of Honor and New Japan and wanted to start a pro wrestling company. They were the biggest guys to never sign with the WWE, not named Sting. And they've made a business and a career that is never going to be duplicated. It's never going to be duplicated. The t-shirts that they've sold, the merchandise that they continue to pump out, and people just bend over backwards to go and buy. They're the first non-wrestling, WWE wrestling, Funko. You'll never see this. You know, WWE is all over the place. They got Funkos for everybody. I got half of them in my closet right now. They're the first group that is a non-WWE group to get their own Funkos. They were a mainstream act. They were big enough to transcend all of that. Kenny Omega, Matt and Nick Jackson, Cody Rhodes, Hangman. Hangman doesn't have a Funko. I'm still waiting on that. But they did this, and they started All Elite Wrestling. They wanted a true alternative. They wanted their vision of what pro wrestling is to be the alternative to what Vince is doing on Monday and Friday nights. That was the vision of AEW. Now look at them. They're in charge. You got the Young Bucks booking the tag team division. Kenny Omega is doing his thing. Cody Rhodes is doing his thing. They're all very close to Tony Khan. And they're executive vice presidents. And now we have Marty Scurll signing with Ring of Honor. Yes, it's a dead promotion. In my eyes, I don't see any value left in Ring of Honor. I don't see any growth. I didn't see growth in Ring of Honor for Marty Scurll to say, you know what, I want to remain here. I didn't think he was going to grow there. And they still might very well be very dead, but I look at it through Marty Scurll's eyes. If Marty Scurll was teased on being the elite, and I am sure, I would bet the house, the kids, the dog, the wife, the cat, the car, the grandparents, the bank account, I bet it all on Marty Scurll getting the Bucks' blessing. You don't think Marty Scurll went to the Young Bucks and was going back and forth with them about what he's going to do, what he wants to do, contemplating what he wants to do? Ring of Honor came to me with this. They want to give me this. You don't think Matt and Nick Jackson have given Marty Scurll their blessing? You don't think Cody gave Marty his blessing? You don't think Kenny gave Marty his blessing? They're all in the know. They're all in the know. That's why they are the elite. So Marty ended up signing with Ring of Honor. Money is not being discussed right now. I don't know. It's main roster money, which could be upwards in the seven figures, right? And on top of that, he's got a head creative booking position. A head creative booking decision. Now, my first thought was, Ring of Honor is dead, and no matter who is booking the show, it's not going to change anything. It's not really going to change anything. But I look at it and look at what the Elite is doing in their positions in AEW, and then I look at Marty Scurll, and now he is head creative in Ring of Honor. They are really changing the world. When did we ever anticipate something like that happening? When did we ever think that these guys are going to run their own wrestling promotion? They're going to be the stars of their own wrestling promotion. When did we ever think that Marty Scurll was going to be head creative for Ring of Honor? We didn't. If you asked me at the beginning of the year what I think, that would not be it. If you told me as a prediction, Marty Scurll is going to sign a WWE-like deal with Ring of Honor and be the head booker creatively in Ring of Honor, I would have looked at you and been, what the fuck are you talking about, man? You on some drugs? What are you doing over there? Give me some. They are realistically changing the world. They are giving themselves positions and giving themselves power and giving themselves financials that have never been seen or heard of in this industry. For someone as young as they are, they're changing the world. Now, what does that mean? I do think that the Elite were in the know. I do think the Elite gave Marty the blessing to go sign and do what he's got to do with Ring of Honor. There's no hard feelings there. It's not going to be a, oh, you're not my friend anymore, go fuck yourself type deal. They're still very much in the know. They're still tweeting and they're still following each other. They're still texting each other. Everything's pretty much still the same. But with this current situation, it could realistically be, and I told my buddy Jesse, it could realistically be something that is, well, if Marty Scurll's doing this right now, and Marty Scurll's putting himself out there, and Ring of Honor gave him pretty much free reign to do whatever the fuck he wants. Obviously, he's going to wrestle for Ring of Honor. He's going to wrestle in NWA. He's going to wrestle in New Japan when he wants to, when they want him, of course. But who's to say he can't show up on AEW television? You don't think Ring of Honor looked at Marty Scurll and bent over backwards for this guy? You don't think Marty Scurll walked in there with his fucking umbrella and demanded anything he wanted? And Ring of Honor was looking at them. Nope, we can't give you that. Nope, we can't give you that. Of course they didn't do that. They sat in that meeting with Marty Scurll and they gave this guy, any word that came out of his mouth, anything that came out of his mouth, he got it. He got it. You don't think he's going to be able to show up on AEW television? You don't think Villain Enterprises, being that they're still together now, what good would Villain Enterprises be if Marty Scurll was not in Ring of Honor? You don't think Villain Enterprises could show up on AEW television and still battle the Elite? Stories right there. You don't think Marty and the Young Bucks are now coming up with ideas for the Villain Enterprises stable to go against the Elite? You left me over there. I had no choice. They offered me this. Bring it to real life. Bring it to television. Bring the real life to television. Villain Enterprises versus the Elite. It tells a story. It sells itself. Ring of Honor is going to allow Marty Scurll to do whatever he wants. Ring of Honor knows that Marty Scurll is the absolute best in, the best possibility to get a working relationship with AEW. You don't think AEW would want to work with Ring of Honor? You don't think Ring of Honor would want to work with AEW, being that they're on TNT, one of the largest cable television networks in the world? Makes sense to me. Really makes sense to me. Everybody's talking about an AEW New Japan partnership. New Japan was on Access TV. Impact Wrestling kind of blackballed them. Come work with us and we'll keep you on Access. New Japan said, no, we don't want to work with Impact Wrestling. So Access TV booted them, or Anthem booted them off Access TV. And now they have no TV deal. Everybody was assuming, well, what about a New Japan AEW partnership? Now we could be looking at Marty Scurll being the figurehead with Ring of Honor, NWA, AEW, and Marty could be the one person to bring all of this together. You could be looking at a potential NWA, Ring of Honor, and AEW partnership. I didn't look at it in that manner when the news broke. Now I'm looking at it in that manner. Because there's no way that Marty Scurll is just going to sit back in Ring of Honor and make his money and book the shows that they've been booking all the time he's been there. He didn't take this position to, okay, pay me and give me the pen and I'm going to write this fucking show for you and we're not going to grow and we're not going to move up. We're not going to get out of this fucking ditch that we're in and we feel like we're never going to get out of. He didn't take that position to be that. He took this position because Ring of Honor knows that he is their best chance to bring all of this together. Now, I might be speaking out of my ass. I might be speaking in fantasy land, but it could be the case. It could be the situation. Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer, noted that his role as lead booker, Marty wants to build a relationship between Ring of Honor and AEW. He's friends with the Young Bucks and wants to have a working relationship between AEW and Ring of Honor. That's his goal. He's going to attempt to do that. I don't know if that's going to happen, but those guys will certainly listen. Ring of Honor is going to fucking listen. They have no choice. They are dead. Their last chance is Marty, and that's why they gave him what they gave him. Meltzer would go on to add that AEW might be more inclined to form a relationship with New Japan as opposed to Ring of Honor. I think that's a tough one because I don't know what Ring of Honor has for AEW, unlike New Japan, where you can see AEW would get from that relationship, what they would get. That's what he's saying. Well, what is Ring of Honor going to offer AEW that New Japan can't offer AEW? New Japan might be a part of this thing as well. We don't know. Ring of Honor is working with New Japan. I think still, there's still a partnership there, I am assuming. And if New Japan wants any presence here in North America and they're with Ring of Honor and then Ring of Honor ends up working with AEW, you don't think New Japan's going to want a piece of that fucking pizza pie as well? Bro, give me a slice, man. Give me a piece of that crust. This could be great. I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll see how things unfold. The typical cliche, we'll see how things unfold. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there to you guys. I didn't think about it in the beginning because I was greedy. I wanted Marty to go to AEW and be with AEW. Now I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, let's think outside the bubble here. Could it really be that all of these independent companies come together like fucking Voltron, like a Power Rangers, like fucking Dragon Zord, right? Megazord, and just battle the big corporate titan known as Vince McMahon? I don't know, man. Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened. Finally, Brian Cage. Is he with AEW? Is he with Impact? Where is he? Is he going to NXT? I don't know. I've been told Killer Kross is on his way to NXT. He's on his way to WWE. I've been told WWE is going to give him a main roster run. I'm told WWE wants him for WrestleMania weekend, which is not surprising at all. That was my first choice for AEW. Killer Kross. Right there. That is your man. That is your star. Go and get him. Give him a blank check. Get him in there. Marty was another one. Marty signed with Ring of Honor. I'm like, what is AEW going to do now? Then I heard the reports on Sunday night when Cage was in the ring with RVD. I looked down, I looked at my phone. Cage wasn't in the ring anymore. And then we get Daga against RVD at their show on Sunday night. Where's Brian Cage? I don't know. Looked like he jobbed out to RVD before the match even got started. So then I see on social media during the match, Brian Cage signs with AEW. I'm like, what the fuck? Now, I'm still in my I wish Marty was going to AEW mode. And I'm like, okay, Marty went to Ring of Honor. He signed for all this money. This is definitely Tony Khan, like, I can't have this happen. Let's give this guy whatever the fuck he wants. And it was a retaliation-like move to get Brian Cage into AEW. I'm like, this is a great fucking move. Brian Cage is fucking awesome. You don't see a guy like that walk into your company every single day. Not a guy like that with that look, that size, that physique, and the way he moves for a guy that big. Could be a big deal. So AEW signed Brian Cage to a contract that was reported following his match at Impact, Hard to Kill, on Sunday night. That presumably means that Hard to Kill was Cage's final Impact Wrestling event. And if that was his wrestling event, or if that was his last Impact show, or if his last Impact show is 6 months from now, so be it. Who gives a shit? He's not going to remain there for the rest of his career. He was gone either way. It's the way I look at it. During Wrestling Observer Live, Dave Meltzer explained that AEW wanted Cage from the start. No shit. Everybody would have wanted Brian Cage. He was a part of All In, but then they also go back as part of the Southern California indie scene, a.k.a. that's where the Bucks are from. He says, and I quote, AEW probably wanted to debut him as a big surprise. Sunday night was probably his last match with Impact Wrestling. You know they always had wanted him from the start. He was part of that Southern California crew, but he was under contract with Impact, and they were pushing him as a top guy. So he was a guy that they wanted, so I presume he'll be a guy that will be a surprise. And again, how soon? Probably really soon. It's interesting because they did go after him. End quote. Impact Wrestling gave Brian Cage quite a platform to perform on. Now Cage will be taking his talents to All Elite Wrestling, and they need somebody like that who is just seasoned and ready to go out there. He's also reportedly injured. I don't know what the status of his injury is, but hopefully he will be able to heal up before making his big debut with AEW. So reportedly, he is signed to a multi-year deal with AEW. But Melissa Santos says no. Brian Cage's wife, Melissa Santos, tweeted out that she hasn't heard about her husband signing with AEW at all. She continued to confirm that Cage has not come to a deal with All Elite Wrestling. She says this on Twitter, and I quote, "Really? How can you confirm something that isn't true? I'm his wife, and I can confirm he hasn't signed on any dotted line." She then later replied to a fan saying that this is why people should wait on some official announcement before assuming anything. You get these fucking cretins who are, looking for the fucking breadcrumbs over there on social media, being all nice and polite and sucking up, right? This fucking goon, this parasite, sucking up to Melissa Santos. Why don't you just wait for an official confirmation? Then she obviously replies to him. Of course she would. She says, exactly. When he has finally signed somewhere, be it AEW, Impact, whoever, we will let you know. People trying to get ahead of actual facts is not cool. Dave Meltzer noted that AEW likely wanted to keep Brian Cage's signing a secret so they could debut him as a big surprise. Now with Melissa Santos claiming that Brian Cage never inked a deal with AEW, it makes the situation even more interesting. Now, I did some follow-up on this, and according to PW Insider, Cage has not signed with any specific promotion, but his current Impact deal is up. Cage is also mulling offers from several other promotions at this time. I wonder who that could be. Additionally, the angle with RVD squashing and injuring him in a short order at the pay-per-view was done to prevent Cage from further injuring himself. The report goes on to note that Cage may have a torn bicep. So that's that. Listen, if he signed with AEW, that's a massive deal for AEW. That is such a big signing. That's such a great signing for them. My first inclination is to believe PW Insider and Mike Johnson, because I don't know why they would lie. They're one of the more credible sources in the community. If they say he has not signed with anybody, then I think we should all assume that he has not signed with anybody. Then I'm on the other side of the coin that the news just broke immediately. And I'm assuming it didn't come from just out of thin air. It came from SoCal Uncensored. Now, I don't know who these guys are. Apparently, they are in the know. And according to Dave Meltzer, these guys who run the SoCal Uncensored Twitter account and the dirt sheet, SoCal Uncensored, is someone who has very, very major ties to everything going on in that in that AEW realm. So for them to put that out, I'm pretty sure that if they put it out, it's true. I don't think they'd put it out and kind of risk their own reputation and risk themselves to be embarrassed in front of their peers. So I'm torn on this one. Do you believe the credible news source, or do you believe the guys who are, the ones with the real deep inside connections, according to Dave Meltzer? I don't know. And then I look at Melissa Santos, and Melissa Santos' behavior is just like everybody else who comes out on social media when things like this happen. It happened with Edge as of late. All of the talk about Edge coming back and returning to the ring and being in the Royal Rumble and coming out of retirement and being cleared to wrestle. He said, no. Denied it up and down. Denied it up and down. You're better off at that point to say nothing. The more you say anything, the more people are going to think you're full of shit. I think Melissa Santos, though I am a big fan of Melissa Santos, I think Melissa Santos is full of shit. I really do. This is her diffusing the bomb the best that she could, and she doesn't want anything to, be out there in the general public that shouldn't be known. I don't know if these people know Melissa Santos or not from SoCal Uncensored. They're doing their job to get the news out there. Melissa Santos tweeted out that she hasn't heard anything from Brian Cage about him signing anything. I'm his wife, and, I can confirm he hasn't signed anywhere. That's probably her just diffusing the bomb. Just like everybody in the business that, goes on to get reported on. Shotzi Blackheart was signed with WWE. She immediately shot that shit down. I'm not signed with anyone. She goes on social media and says, where does she show up? She's in NXT. Give me a break. You're best not saying anything. Don't say anything. Melissa Santos just fell into the same trap as everybody else. Brian Cage signed with AEW? No, he didn't. You're better off not saying anything. I'd believe you a little bit more. So I think Brian Cage is on his way to AEW, and if that's the case, that's a major move. I hope that bicep injury is not as bad as it could be, because that's a serious injury. And if he's going to AEW, again, if he's got a real torn bicep, I don't know why anybody would want to sign him right now. But regardless, we'll see what happens with Brian Cage. If he does go to AEW, that's a major signing for All Elite Wrestling. Guys, I'm getting out of here. Thank you all so very much. And this has been Off the Script Elite. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that thumbs up. If you're new around here, hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that bell for all notifications. Make sure you guys check out all the other videos that you might have missed on the channel. Everything you need is linked down below in this very video in the description box. And I will be back with more Dynamite tonight. As always, Bash on the Beach. And then I'll see you guys for new content tonight with Dynamite, NXT, and then onwards to the weekend with episode 309 of Off the Script. Until then, guys, take care, and I'll see you tonight for Bash at the Beach. What's my cold beverage gonna be? I don't know. I'll surprise you guys. I'll see you guys at Bash at the Beach.